Johnny B. Jensen, T. Blackjacks, Best Coast, California Nights. Bethany Costantino is the frontwoman for this band, this easy listening indie surf rock dream pop poppity rop sop wak pocken poppity pop sop pop band. Yes. In the past, I've found Best Coast music to be intermittently a perfect execution of the project's intentional sound, and yet also sometimes kind of cloying, kind of obvious, kind of irritating. Often with a Best Coast record, what you get is a heaping, saturated dose of sort of catchy melodies, fuzzy guitars, and vocals that sound simultaneously apathetic and also passionate. You know, very distant but also sorrowful, very dense. It's a difficult blend, but Bethany's singing on any Best Coast album pulls that off and is never a reason to complain. I think it's the reason why Best Coast was able to rise above a lot of other projects going for the same kind of thing during the same time Best Coast became popular. I mean, let's just talk about singles like When I'm With You and Boyfriend. Holy shit, how can you listen to either of those songs and not just be immediately transported? I'll be driving to work in my shitty Dodge Stratus, Boyfriend comes on the stereo, and instantly I evaporate from my vehicle. I blink, and then I'm just hovering over a noisy, overcrowded California beach. It's like 87 degrees, like 6:34 p.m. I look down and see a bunch of LA kids wearing some dope ass shades. They're all high as shit and having sex with every person in their vision, each time either losing a part of their soul or deepening part of it, maybe? All of their youth and angst and passion and intensity just radiates and consumes me, and then I just levitate higher and higher and get closer and closer till the sun till I just orgasm. And then I die. That happens to me every time I listen to that song. Then, I listen to pretty much any handful of tracks from an album like The Only Place, and the most emotional response I get from it is like, oh, California's pretty cool. I might listen to this song on a beach. Yeah. Thematically, just not a lot is usually happening on a Best Coast record, and if it is, it's very simple and accessible in the way that a great single should be, but just not enough to really sustain my attention for longer than 25 minutes on a full-length LP. Leading up to this new album, California Nights, I was going back and forth with my expectations. On the one hand, I enjoyed the singles that were released quite a bit, maybe not as much as some of those 2009, 2010 singles I mentioned before, but I was still into it. The title track, California Nights, which was the first one that was released from this album, I really enjoyed it. It had this entrancing, almost kind of lethargic pace to it, and this really solid, big sounding song structure. The lyrics are obvious, almost a little cringe-inducing at the beginning of the track. I mean, like how many times have we had to sit through in a song the notion of needing to stay high all the time? It just kind of feels like, we're Best Coast, we're in California, we're on drugs, But then, a little over a minute into the track, we get this beautiful guitar melody and some loud, grandiose drumming that gives this song that anthemic feel I was talking about. I was really hoping that would carry over onto this LP and maybe give me a Best Coast record I could fully get behind listening to from start to finish. So I wasn't blown away by this album. California Nights is not revolutionary or genre defying in any way, but in the context of Best Coast releasing new music and progressing as a band, I think this is the step they've needed to take for a long time. I really enjoy the song Feeling Okay as a kickoff to California Nights. It's clear, it's clean, and I think Bethany Costantino is really on point here lyrically and vocally. I like her talking about this love that has her feeling okay. As someone who's dealt with depression and suicide and things that I feel are behind this track in certain ways, it's really interesting to hear someone talk about feeling okay and describing that as this really great transcendent feeling. This idea Bethany focuses on, I think, resonates a lot more than if it were to just be about a lot of the sunshine and roses of a perfect relationship or something like that. Then we get the second track, Fine Without You, which is very straightforward. Guess you've spent all your life comparing yourself to her. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. You've got to let go. But straightforward has never been a problem for Best Coast when the musical performances and vocal performances there to back it up, and that's the case for this song and most of the songs on this record. Those performances are so much better than they've ever been in a Best Coast release, and they make this an enjoyable, even occasionally cathartic listening experience. I love the fourth track, In My Eyes. It's a pretty standard breakup tune for the most part, but the melody and the hooks on this song are just fucking great. The song So Unaware too has a really catchy chorus and some of the most tonally confident and impressive singing on this entire album. I am a little bothered by the cliched phrasing at the beginning of When Will I Change, but I guess it's decent enough. The weight of the world crashes on your shoulders. Really? Still, stellar end to this track though, and still, decent enough to listen to. Jealousy is another catchy, angsty love song. Great chorus here too. Then there's the title track, which I did already go into, but I really love its placement on the LP. It represents one of the biggest positives of this project, which is, although there isn't a lot of variance in the thematic content of this album, there is certainly enough variance in song structure to make this feel like a pretty cohesive whole. We continue to see that in the tracks Fading Fast and Run Through My Head. Sleep Won't Ever Come is probably my least favorite here. It's not an aggressively bad track at all. It just doesn't really do a whole lot new from anything previously on the album, nor does it hit me in any way from a songwriting perspective or an emotional perspective. Wasted Time is a damn good closing track. I mean, it is a closing track in the way a closing track should be on this kind of musical project. It's another big sounding song, almost a sunnier kind of echo of California Nights earlier in the record. It's an appropriate narrative and thematic summary of everything preceding it, and almost another ballad-like song for Best Coast that I really, really enjoyed. Overall, this isn't that different a thing Best Coast has given us with California Nights. However, what has been done here to make this a distinguishing effort and the remarkable increase in amazing musical performances and production quality make this the Best Coast album that I would favor if I was picking through their discography and deciding on what to listen to. It's bigger, more entertaining, simple mostly in a good way, and kind of just better. Hopefully, Bethany Costantino and her bandmate, Bob Bruno, do things like this in the future, continue to put out projects of this quality, and do little things on each one to shake it up a little bit. If, of course, they're going to remain in this same general stylistic arena for a while longer. I'm giving California Nights a 76. California. We love it. California. California, 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 California. Thanks so much for listening to what lowly me had to say about California Nights. I very much appreciate you taking the time to watch all of this. Go over to artfilmthink.com, our website. I just put up my rankings for music that I listened to in 2015 so far. If there's anything on there that you want to hear my thoughts on, shoot me a comment on this video, and I just might do that. I just might make a review for it. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and remember, California.